checking on a couple more things, and we'll go ahead and get started on installing some of these parts, flashing some firmware, and talking about some stuff. At the start of the show here. Yeah, just give me another couple minutes. Start this. I don't think there's been any issues. If anybody can comment about sound quality, as long as the microphone sounds balanced. It's going to sound like, for some reason, there's like a tornado in here. I don't know. This is just not a very good microphone. It picks up a lot of noise. I've tried to balance everything. Let me know if there's any issues. I'll try to get it sort of balanced out. Otherwise, yeah, we can go ahead and get started on this. So, today, on this video, we have a FOKOOS Odin-5 F3. I consider it basically like if you wanted to buy a 3D printer that came with most of the modifications that you would end up doing to, say, an Ender or one of the Aquila printers. This basically already has it. It has dual Z, it has direct drive, it's got a Volcano hot end on it. MKS silent board with 32-bit, it's a 32-bit driver, 32-bit board with silent drivers. They're 22/8 running in standalone. No UART on the board, but it's a pretty easy upgrade to one of the MKS Robins if you route, but out of the box, this thing really is a monster without really any upgrades. We're only here doing some basic modifications to it to make it a little bit quieter, make it a little bit easier to live with. More or less, we're installing a new shroud. One of the biggest complaints that I think I've seen about the volume on this guy, you get a little bit of like a high-pitched piercing noise out of it, and it's this front fan here for the part cooler. These radial fans are a little bit loud anyway, but because they put this grill here to protect you from sort of sticking fingers in, anything else from damaging your fan, it suffocates the fan like a little tiny bit, and it makes it a little bit more noticeable than it should. So I've got this guy here. It's got a removable grill here, so you can actually run it without the grill or any other sort of grill that fits any standard 4010 fan, or any 40mm fan really. As long as it's 40mm, it'll go in front of this. I don't really have a grill or anything for this guy. It doesn't really need it. This metal sort of grill has been really efficient. There's kind of a reason why it's been around in the computer game for as long as it has. No complaints so far, so yeah, we'll just keep going. So yeah, before we do too much to it, I guess we'll talk about sort of where to start. I know a lot of people are going to want a video for a 3D Touch or a DL Touch install, which, believe me, will be coming soon enough. I want to try to make a like a plug-and-play harness for this that kind of just, you know, works rather than doing anything sort of hacky, and then sort of release that to the community so they know what to buy. Hopefully it'll just be some stuff you plug in, not really any crimping or anything, maybe the D-pin connector or something, but hopefully we'll get there, and I already have firmware that works for that, confirmed with the community and everything. The problem that I don't really have, or that I don't really, is which camera angle would be best. I'll tell you what, we're going to go ahead and use the secondary camera here so you get it in place. This is very loose for some reason. In frame as much as possible. You guys bear with me here. I had a limited amount of time to get this set up today. Alright. Stay. This switched over to the other camera. Excellent. Alright. So the bottom screws are a mix of 3mm and 2.5mm X's. The little feet, they take the 3mm, and then you have these 2.5s in the middle. Sort of hold it all in afterwards. The feet might get kind of stuck to the bottom panel. It's like a really kind of sticky rubber because you tighten these screws a lot and it just sort of self-adheres. I just kind of like pull the screw off to the side a little bit and it pulls the feet off. And 2.5s. Alright, so we're in. If there's any questions about anything in here, let me know. I think it's been pretty decently documented in the group so far. But any actual questions, just let me know. Hello to everybody in here so far. We've got Dora. If anybody has any questions at all about anything, sales, support, literally anything, she's the person to ask. She is an amazing wealth of information about these printers, as well as their filaments. We have GOTC TV in here saying hello. Hello to you, sir. Hello to Malad as well. And we have this VPS AP1 guy, who I don't think I've ever met in my entire life, saying hi. So I'll say what's up to him too. I'm just kidding, he's my brother. But in here, we have a couple parts we can install. We have this guy, which is basically just a duct that covers up the drivers, so it helps draw air over the drivers through the fan and up the back. We're going to need to turn this fan around. Currently from the factory, it's set to blow across the drivers, which is like really efficient if you don't really have ducting and everything, but since we're going to be adding ducting, we're going to draw fresh air over the drivers, blow it towards the back of the printer, and then exhaust it out of the rear of the case using the exhaust fan. The intake for the printer is mainly right here next to the power supply. The power supply doesn't have a fan that's passively cooled by this, so helping to create a draft that circulates from the power supply across the board and out of the back will help to kind of create, hopefully, the idea is to create a nice little circulation there. Alright, so yeah, let's get started with this. I think I actually do need some standard tools here. I don't think my giant wrench is going to fit in there. Luckily, FOKOOS gives you an entire box filled with tools, spare parts, and accessories. They actually sell an accessory kit now, I believe, for $25, $26 or something like that. It's incredibly reasonable for what you get on Amazon. You get, I think it's 2 nozzles, 2 heater blocks with thermistors, and like heater cartridges, like basically just plug and play replacements. A new runout sensor, 2 ribbon cables, I think. I'm pretty sure that's it. I'd have to pull that up in on their page, but anyways, for $25, $26, something like that, it's an incredible deal. You really do get a lot of parts. Oh yeah, and you get rollers. You get some new roller wheels. So if you wear out your rollers, or if you have any issues with them, or you break one, or just abuse them a little too much, you get quite a bit for spares. So I think it's like 6 or 8 rollers. Somebody can chime in, hopefully, with the answer to that. But you do get a lot of spare parts in here. Oh yeah, and you get some spare ribbons in the box. So they pretty much got you covered here with all the spare parts you could really ever need for this thing. So no worries there. A lot of the concern that I hear from a lot of people on any new printer is, how's the support, how are parts, are you going to be able to get parts for it, just kind of cross your fingers and hope it's a universal printer and takes universal blah blah blahs. This isn't exactly as universally friendly as let me just go buy off-the-shelf parts for it. You have to be a little bit more selective because it has the volcano hot in and everything. But the actual parts that you need to replace in this are there. They're very easy to get. Like I said, they're not expensive. They're right on Amazon and they're out there. So, yeah, absolutely. I can turn down the music. Sorry, I try to balance the music with the background noise because there's quite a bit of like it basically sounds like a wind tunnel in the background, but it's just excess noise that the microphone picks up. It's not very good. I need to get something a little bit nicer, maybe something a little bit more shielded, but turn the music down quite a bit. Let me know if that's better for you. Alright, so we need to get our 2mm, which I believe is this guy. Actually, you know what? I might be able to get this in here. Nope, I'm a liar. I can definitely not get that. 2.5. Oh, 2.5. Okay, good to know. No, there's literally no fan. There's no airflow down here. If I plug in the extension to this this microphone, you'll end up hearing just a lot of static because it picks up a lot of noise. Not like noise in the background, just electrical, like interference type noise. Currently, it's like the sound is just I don't know. It's just a bad microphone. I'll try to upgrade that at some point, but I think that's going to come as like a whole camera upgrade package, so I can stop using cell phones and stuff. All right, almost got this fan out of here. Excellent. All chopper screws. Just knock them out of the fan, and all we're doing is turning this around. So if you ever have a question on which way these fans sort of should be oriented, hold on a second, let me do this other situation fixing thing. Okay, so fans will normally blow towards their motor side. So there's a side that you can see nothing but fan blades, and then there's the one that usually has these little arms for the motor mounts. It'll be 3 or 4 arms typically, but basically these will normally blow towards their motors. So if you can see the blades, it's sucking air from where you are and blowing it away from you, and if it's facing towards you, then it's blowing air towards you. So just kind of an easy rule of thumb to follow there. But so we're going to change this orientation so it's blowing air towards the back instead of at the board, and we need to remount this fan in there, which I believe requires longer screws. It does. That's okay. Came prepared. I believe we're going to use, it's a 10mm fan, we have to go all the way through into a bracket, so I would say at least 12mm should do it. 12 or 14 should be fine. You have quite a bit of room here. You can go longer if all you have is something that's longer. But otherwise, that should be fine. 12 is the sweet spot, I think. Even 12 might be a little short. I might still go for like a 16. It's going to be more annoying to install with one of these little tiny hex keys, but I think better safe than sorry, or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a cautious person usually. So at the conclusion of installing these modifications and flashing the firmware on the printer, we're going to go over how to do that as well. We're also going to be doing a giveaway. I'm going to be printing a benchy. If you can guess the weight of the benchy, the 2 closest people to guess the weight are going to win a spool of FOKOOS PLA Plus, courtesy of Dora and her team. They've graciously decided to do a giveaway here, which is fantastic. It's very appreciated. Their filament, they have included 2 kilograms with my order here, and yeah, I'm most of the way through with the white, and I'd say probably about 45–50% of the way through the red. That's what those things on top of the box were, by the way. Those were giant prints that I did with the FOKOOS, actually, with their filament. Turned out really nice. Kind of guessed on a profile. Worked out okay. The red one turned out a little bit cleaner than the white, but I started with the white, so built the profile up, made it work great. Same profile works great for the white and the red. No issues switching between the 2. In terms of how the filament prints, I would say that it prints probably really close to like a PETG, like a really low temp PETG. I think I was printing at around 190 degrees, 185 with this volcano hot end. And while it's a little bit stringier than standard PLA, it's really nowhere close to PETG. But if you're familiar with printing with PETG, you'll know the struggle very very much so, and how to fix it. All right, so we got the fan turned around. Now it's going to blow air towards the back of the case. We need to, sometimes, I've had a couple people install this, they kind of told me that their wires are a little wonky. You might have to cut this zip tie and sort of pull these wires and sort of relax them, because you don't really want to yank on any of these wires because you can damage the connectors or pull wires out. But you don't really want this sitting on top of the driver, and you don't want it to be pulling on the driver's heatsink. You just kind of want it to be able to tuck behind the driver heatsink here without interfering with anything. And then this piece just fits directly over top of the drivers. If this wire was on top of this, first of all, it sort of blocks this from actually fitting, and this basically sits like right up against the bottom plate because it sits more or less flush with this fan almost. So you really need this to kind of be underneath of this guy for this to fit properly. If you can't get your wires to fit properly, then just cut some of these zip ties. You can route some of these wires over top of this instead of underneath. It's going to look a little uglier, but realistically, airflow I think is more important than aesthetics here. For the screws on this guy, again, we're going to need at least 12 to 16 millimeter screws. It's a 10 millimeter fan, and we're going to be inserting some screws through it. I'm out of 16 in that size. 1 second. Got some stainless ones. You should work great. Good enough. If you don't have a set of these tools yet, I really recommend you grab them. Especially if you're going to be tinkering with printers quite a bit, it saves you a lot of headache dealing with little hex keys constantly. Your fingers will absolutely save you within a couple of days. So make sure our wires are nice and out of the way. And get this tight. Yes, they are very, very cheap. You can get a set of these drivers, I think, for... Normally, I think they're about 15 bucks. I think the cheapest I've ever seen them is like $10 on sale, and it's so worth it. Alright, so we got that guy done. Next thing that we're going to do is these two here. We have a duct that'll be on the front side, and then we have a spacer that goes... the fan's going to be kind of sandwiched in between. Do one of these guys with it. So we need to unscrew the 2.5, I believe, right? Yeah, 2.5 millimeter screws for the fan. And it looks like it's in the corner. Yeah, it's in the corner. So actually, what's an even more valid point is not only does it not strip the head of the screws, but normally you can actually get out semi-stripped screws with those drivers just because they are cut very, very precisely. Rather than being little pieces of extruded metal, they're actually cut, I think CNC cut, I don't know the process, but anyway, they're cut out of a little piece of circle, really, really hard metal. Rather than being a little piece of extruded metal. So they last forever, and because they're such an accurate fit, they normally take out hex keys that are slightly stripped by other tools. Just not screw out, but it's okay. We're almost done getting this guy out. Kat is upstairs because Kat will absolutely make me have to get up more times than I'm willing to get up during a live stream. As cute as she is. So this fan here, we're going to have it blow the same exact orientation it was when I took it out, which is, again, exhausting out of the rear. We don't want this as an intake fan. Keeping in mind the motor rule here, where this fan is going to blow towards the motor. We want the motor to be towards the back. I had all of these sizes written down on my Thingiverse page. I don't really remember a lot of them because I took this off so long ago. I've actually been using this as basically a stock printer now for a while, probably the past month and a half. The only thing I've been doing is tinkering with firmware on it. literally no issues with this thing. I love this printer. It's so nice for I don't even want to say it's nice for its size. It's just a nice printer, and the fact that it's really small is just kind of neat for me. I have nothing but massive printers, so this guy can live in my office. It's a silent printer, so it makes almost no noise, and it is so easy to live with. Okay, so yeah, these are the appropriate size screws. Measure them really quick just to have an accurate telling of their size. I think they're like 25. Yes, 25 millimeter screws. So you need M3 by 25 for these. You need at least 2 of them. And just for time constraints here, I'm going to install this kind of in a not recommended way, but I'm going to put both of the screws on top, facing the camera in this case, just so I can get to them very easily with the tool here. I would recommend putting them at least in cross corners. I don't really think you need to use 4 screws on this. It doesn't really make sense. It's not like sealing. And keep in mind, this kit has 2 spacers, by the way. The one with the logo on it goes on the outside of the printer. I didn't logo any of the stuff on the inside just to sort of differentiate where it goes. But this one here, it tapers down into a square, or like a rectangle. This one is for the hot end fan, not the inside here, the control box. So get all this kind of stacked together here. And again, you're going to have to massage some wire. Yeah, massage some wires out of the way. That was difficult for me to say. You shouldn't be pulling on any wires, but you should be okay to sort of, just pull them back a little bit. Again, if you pull on any wires, you definitely risk damaging the connectors on them, so I don't recommend it. This screwed in. This guy. No need to over tighten these. It's just holding a very small fan in. You just don't want them to vibrate loose. Yeah, there's tons of room in here. Thankfully, they didn't use one of those big chunky power supplies, this little 240 watt. A lot of people are really questioning whether 240 watts is enough for a printer, but to be honest, this bed, at least as far as I've known, like with printers this size, it doesn't really heat up that much slower than, say, like an Ender 3 or the Aquila, which have the 350 watt power supplies. But I mean, really, the bed's small enough that I think it's such a negligible difference that not having to have another 100 watt load is really nice. And the amount of room that it buys you in here for being able to do your own mods and installing whatever, if you want to cut this thing to pieces and install a different board and maybe even like throw a Pi in here or something, you absolutely can. Like, there's the sky's the limit for sure. So we are done in here. I'm just going to make sure that my wires are nice and massaged. They're not tugging at anything, and they're not like, pulling at anything in any weird angles. And make sure this isn't all bound up. Feed this guy back in here because it's kind of ugly sticking out like that. Wire that I think I got a little too zealous on before. Get that nice and tucked in. Actually tuck this wire in too. I don't really fold this machine very often, so kind of make the outside wires a little shorter for reasons. But alright, so we're pretty much done. I'm going to put this cover back on. This wire kind of figured out. You can definitely zip tie this. Airflow will definitely thank you if you kind of get all this out of the way, but it's really not super necessary. Just one of those things you can be picky about if you want. This wire a little bit more out of the way. If this fan, if this shroud right here really pushes up against the bottom plate, then normally what I think people have been saying is that this tab that this fan is on, I don't know if you can see, but you can kind of move it. While the fan is mounted from like OEM without any of the shroud on, I think what people have recommended is you just kind of bend the tab a little bit downwards, just so this doesn't push on the bottom as much. I've already kind of done that originally, but mine didn't really need that. I think some people's are just a little bit more bent than others. But yeah, I'll get this put on to locate my screws again. They are lost in here somewhere. Oop, and a jump. Got it. This 2.5 is still a little fresh, so it's a little tight on these screws. Alright, I'm going to get this started with the one that's not incredibly tight. This hardware is very, very nice too. It's not, very, very cheap, sloppy hardware. It's good quality. I don't think I've come close to stripping out one of these screws, and I've gotten a little abusive with them in the past with the screwdriver style hex keys here. I'm actually very impressed that we have as much light back here as we do. This is a very surprising setup here. Any complaints? Again, unfortunately, the audio is about as good as it gets. I know it sounds like I have, like, basically a leaf blower pointed right at me, but I promise you I don't. That is something that we're all going to just have to live with for today. I'm also hoping to get the audio situated sooner than later, because of the fact that I can't use the microphone extension. I'm like tethered within 6 feet of this computer. I can't really get up and go do things. So, believe me, it's coming. I forgot to mention also, I think as far as I've seen, they offer one of the best warranties for this printer. I don't think I've seen another manufacturer offer a 1-year warranty. But as stated right there on the sticker on the front, it's got a 12-month warranty for any sort of parts that may break or damage. Obviously it doesn't cover any sort of worn out parts if you print 75 tons of filament on it and it's just completely worn out. They're probably not going to help you out too much, but I have seen them take care of a lot of people on the Facebook group. Anytime there's been an issue, they jump directly on it and get parts shipped out. If you have an issue, they'll take care of you. Outstanding customer support, so for sure. Let's see if we can do. Yeah, it's a magnetic bed cover. I'm gonna move this camera so we can get a slightly better view here. This camera unplugged too. The magnetic bed cover is made by a company whose name I will most likely butcher if I try to pronounce, but I'm pretty sure it's like Fisect or Fisect. I don't know, it's weird. It's F-Y-S-E-T-C. They make them in most sizes, from little tiny itty-bitty like resin printer plates to like Ender 500 by 500 millimeter plates. I did a video on not only how to install these on this specific printer, but honestly the process is basically the same from printer to printer. But highly recommended if you do a lot of large prints. If you print a lot of small stuff, it's not really a super worth it upgrade, but anytime you move to bigger parts, like for example, this guy right here, this takes up the entire build plate more or less. Actually, I have to move the Z up to fit it, but yeah, this was a pretty big print. When I did one of these at work on our CR10S Pro, my coworker went to go take it off the bed with a scraper, And we're talking about like a 2-3 days after this thing was done printing. It finished up on like a Friday night, sat over the weekend, and it definitely just it was cool. Believe me, the bed was cool. And he couldn't get it off. He used the scraper and just tried and tried and tried. He said he got the scraper underneath of the corner, got it like an inch or two in, and then the glass bed just completely shattered. So take that for what you will, but honestly, if you print giant, huge sheet things, you can't go wrong. And I mean, honestly, you could see the beds. I needed to do a bed mesh probably before I did something ridiculous like this, but I mean, I didn't lose adhesion even in these high zones. Every single one of these little squares held together. All the little flat spots peeled off perfectly. There's nothing got left behind on the bed. 100% recommend the PEI build plate. Glass is really, really nice, and I think a reason why a lot of manufacturers just include the glass is that A, it's normally going to be flatter than one of these being directly stuck to the build plate. But also it allows you to print more things. Normally these magnets don't hold up past like 75, 80 degrees Celsius. So if you're constantly printing at like 100 degrees Celsius, 90 degrees Celsius, this magnet is going to basically not be a magnet anymore. Your bed's just going to fall off. Or, you know, if you print with ABS and the corner starts to peel up, instead it's going to peel up the actual bed. And it's hilarious, but I've seen it happen. Personally, I used to print with ABS a lot, and I wore out one of my first magnets. So not a good experience. Glass definitely is a champ for basically printing whatever you want, but PEI just makes printing PLA and PETG a lot easier. I don't really do too much ABS these days. Let's check chat. What do we got going over here? We got yeah, people agreeing that we have great customer support. Yeah, I mean, I personally haven't had any issues, but I which seems to be the running thing, by the way. I think Joel had, as far as I saw, no issues on his stream. He just built the printer and just kind of started printing halfway through. I think he increased the speed to like 150, 200% feed rate, and like it printed fine. It was great. No issues on his experience. And I think that's a majority of the users. I think obviously, you know, you ship a machine over from overseas, there's going to be an occasional time where one or two is going to have some issues, but like I don't know. Anytime those issues have cropped up, they've literally just like within hours normally, unless it's like some weird hour on the weekend or something, like they jump right on these issues. Like rest assured, you have a company that will answer your call. Well, not your literal call, but you know they'll answer when you message them for sure. So we'll go ahead and get started on installing this guy, my cooling trout here. We'll do the side fan first because it's facing me, and I don't feel like doing the other one first. So this fan here, it's a 4010, 24 volt, very standard fan. If it ever goes bad, I recommend replacing them with a ball bearing fan. I can't confirm if this is a ball bearing or a hydraulic fan currently, but I know you can buy both if you go to buy them online, which, you know, given the option, make sure you buy the ball bearing one because it's very critical. I have a whole video series about installing this guy. I think I still have it on the site, but this is a good time to sort of pick out any hair or pet hair or dirt, dust, debris, anything that's in here. You know, wipe your heatsink down, get any of that stuff out of there. Alright. So, we have this guy, which is going to go with the KiNG logo facing forward and focus on top. I don't think I branded the other two corners there, but cool. So this is just going to fit, yeah, directly over top of this and get screwed in using two more 25mm screws? 20? Hold on, I gotta measure these again. I should have taken notes, I promise. I'll be more prepared for this in the future. Yeah, 25mm also. So grab some more 25mm screws. You're going to be going through the grill here, through the fan, which again, remember the orientation, you want to blow towards the block here. The screw holes are in the bottom left and the top right if you're looking at the heat sink. So you want to make sure that when you put the fan back together, you know, you got the wires on the bottom right, and then you feed the screws through the right holes, because you will get very frustrated trying to thread a screw into the head of another screw. And just the KiNG logo goes in the front. This is a lot easier to do when you can block your camera view with your head. It's kind of going a little bit blind here, but this works. Oh, nope, I grabbed the wrong screw. Hold on. There it is. Excellent. The point of this specific part here is, again, to slightly reduce noise, but this one actually has a little bit more of an important job. These fans have a tendency to stall whenever they're too close to what they're blowing at. So if you have one of these guys pressed right up against the heatsink, it's going to create a lot of back pressure on the fan. These fans are CFM fans, they're not pressure fans like the radio fans are. That's what these are for. But too much back pressure, you'll stall the fan. So you end up getting more consistent hot end temperature as well as better cooling. So if you're printing higher temperature, then you'll end up with, again, more stable temperature, a more stable temperature at the heatsink here, which can help heat creep not getting into your filament. Because that's something that will happen if you have a, I think the word's thermoscopic filament, where it absorbs heat really well. The heat from the heat break can work its way up into the heatsink a little bit, and whenever you get like a retraction, it'll cause deformations, which causes some issues. So basically, this can help out with that too if you're getting a little bit of heat creep on your machine, which I really haven't seen very many documented cases of. But you know, increasing efficiency for the cost of 2 screws is fairly negligible, I think, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and get this other cover replaced. I think we can see most of the hardware from. I think it's a little closer to you guys. Okay, yeah, we can see most of the stuff there. Start by unplugging this ribbon cable here. You want to make sure you always pull this straight. If you pull at angles and do weird stuff to it, you can kind of damage this cable or the connector sometimes. But the less you abuse this, the better, because you really don't want to wear out that connector. So we got 3 2 millimeter screws here, 1 on top, 2 on the side. Hold your ribbon cable out of the way. Again, you don't really want to damage that. So try to be careful. This guy removed. And carefully extract this. As for mounting this grill to the shroud itself, it just takes, I think it was M3 by 3 millimeter screws. Basically, you just don't want them to really stick out too much past these little holes here. They can go out by like a millimeter or 2, but you'll start hitting the fan in some weird ways. So this installs the exact same way that the OEM one did. It's a little bit easier because some of the extra material that is injection molded on this one kind of has been trimmed away, just to kind of give it a little bit easier of a time getting installed. So we're just going to set that there. And yeah, I have a comment about hanging the printer from your ceiling. And hey, you know, I got a video up on my page. If you want to do it, you can. It can be done, for sure. That was a challenge that the FOKOOS group had put out on Facebook. It was printing a Marvin model upside down, which was fantastic because it was a lot of fun. A lot of people participated in that. Got to see some interesting ideas on how to set your printer up upside down. With decent results. There was a lot of successful prints coming out of that. There was a lot going on. A lot of people were doing some interesting things, but yeah, you can print upside down with this printer for sure. It'll do it. It doesn't care. I think we should petition to add this to the International Space Station for their printer. Make sure these screws are nice and tight. I wouldn't over-tighten them because if you over-tighten 3D printed parts, normally they have a tendency to crack. got those screws tightened up. Gonna install this ribbon cable over here. I might change the shroud at some point in time to include one of those locking things for the ribbon cable. I've seen it happen on a couple of other designs, and I think it's a great idea. I'm not an advocate for my stuff if something's better, so I definitely think that if you're likely to have a ribbon cable come loose, if you have some animal or kids or something that might mess with it, yeah, it couldn't hurt. I would definitely do it. I'm too not too busy, but I'm a little too behind to start designing more parts again. But yeah, so we're situated here. We've got the full Odin Be-Quiet package installed here. I forgot to link it in the description, but I will add it at the conclusion of this video on how to, or not how to, but the package on Thingiverse for these files. It's also on the FOKOOS model library, which I will also link in the description. Yeah, I think we can move on from here. Any questions before we do? Any serious things that we gotta know? Where do you mount your BL Touch with the new housing? So I don't have one down here with me, but this guy right here, actually, I have another part that I have to grab. There we go. Excellent. I have some spacers for this kit. Gotta clip back in here, otherwise we risk having a situation with this microphone. There it is. Okay, so the BL Touch will mount here, right on this guy here. Depending on the BL Touch model, some 3D Touch, some BL Touch, there's like the CR Touch and everything. All of those should absolutely work with this without a problem. I haven't verified the CR Touch fits on this, but it does fit my other shroud. I think well, no, I might have to do a cutout here. I might have to modify this with the CR Touch because I think the wires come out like where it mounts, so some little goofy stuff there. But basically, yeah, the probe will mount here, and just kind of sticks down here, sits in the front. I tried to get it as close as I could to the hot end as possible without blocking too much stuff. You can still kind of get to this button up at the top if you need to push on it. Or not on the top, but on the side, your filament spring button here. But yeah, just mounts right here. I have the offsets and everything on the Thingiverse page. They're also hard-coded into my firmware, so if you print this out and you install it, you install your ABL, you get it all wired up, and you flash my firmware on it, it will just work immediately without any other configuration changes. The offset will already be there. The only thing you'll have to change is your Z offset, because again, every probe is a little bit different. That's why I have the spacer, which you can scale, as big or as small as you need it. Some people don't need a spacer. Some people need like 3 or 4 millimeters. I have no idea how there's that much of a discrepancy, but I left an adjustability thing in there just for that reason. Any other questions? I think we're good to go. We'll switch back to the other camera angle here. We'll get the firmware going. We're going to get a download for it. We're going to flash the firmware. We're going to slice a benchy. Then what we're going to do, we're going to print that benchy. While the benchy's printing, we're going to have, I think, about 25-30 minutes. I'm going to lightning print this benchy at like 150-200 millimeters per second. We're going to use some FOKOOS filament here. Let me get an opinion in chat if we should do a red or white benchy. And actually, it looks like I'm most of the way done with both of these filaments. I would say that I have an indicator on the side. I would say I'm about 75% done with these rolls here. And then I have the one spool that they send with the printer, which I haven't really used too much of. But yeah, red or white benchy. Let me know in the chat comments here. While I get this screen share set up over here, which I did ahead of time because I am a responsible individual today. So we need to make sure that we do this to our second camera here. Display capture, move that up. Transition. Bam, we got a desktop. We're so fancy. Okay. The link to my firmware I will also put in the description of the video. I will it's already posted to the group. I was going to say I'll post it there, but it will take care of itself. So I got lost in my drive here. I gotta do a little bit better organization. So I believe we can just slide this over here, and that's going to give us a nice, good, solid view of the screen. So this is what you're going to see when you get to my firmware page. You're going to have a BL Touch version, the configs, and the mesh. The configs is if you want to take my firmware and use it as a base for your firmware, or if you just want to make your own firmware and have no idea to start with the configurations of this printer, and you really just like, you know, you want a cheat sheet, I don't care. It's fully open source. I don't charge any money for it. I don't make any money for it. I accept donations, but otherwise, go crazy, man. Just have fun. It's part of the community. We give and we give. That's what we do. So yeah, we're gonna go over here. We're gonna download our mesh, because I don't have an ABL installed. So this folder here, copy all to SD root. This guy here. So we're going to go back here, right click, download, doing this at like a really weird angle. Sorry if you can bear with me here. Alright. So we got that downloaded, or downloading. After that, we need to, give me one moment here, I got an SD card I got to install. And by the way, OBS is absolutely murdering my my computer here. This thing is running like an abused washing machine for sure. Okay. Just gonna drop this icon over here. I don't know if it's gonna work, but. Alright, so yeah, that works. Pull up this guy, make sure the SD card gets... Yeah, we'll do this too. We'll do this as a part of the process. So, right now I have some stuff on this SD card. As most people will do, they'll have, you know, a bunch of files they just printed, or maybe the files that the printer came with, or, you know, something. Something will be on this SD card normally. So, I highly recommend at the start of this process, you right-click your SD card, and you go to Format. Leave it on FAT32, whatever capacity is fine, the allocation unit size doesn't matter. Volume label doesn't matter too much, but if it's like super crazy long, it can cause some issues, so you can, you know, not put a volume label and it'll label it, I think, new volume. Definitely do a quick format, there's no reason to do a long format. Hit start, go ahead and hit yep, it's going to go ahead and nuke the entire drive. There'll be no data left on it whatsoever, which is exactly what we want, because any sort of leftover garbage can cause some weird stuff. So we have this whole folder here. We need to make sure that you don't copy the actual folder that says copy all to SD root to the SD root. That's a very, very bad faux pas there. Let me see. Yeah, Ricky. Yeah, there's a lot of noise. Unfortunately, the microphone that I'm using isn't doing so hot. I don't really have a better solution for it currently, but I am looking for a better microphone and working towards getting that fixed. Hopefully it's not completely unbearable. But yeah, let me know if I get too quiet, or if I get too much background noise or something. I might be able to try to do something with the microphone editor, but I'm going to keep trying to go forward if possible. Alright, so yeah, back to this. So we need to have, we'll open up our SD card side by side just so I can kind of, you know, baby step this process here. So put this over here, and we will side by side that with this. With our USB drive, which is now completely empty, should have absolutely nothing on it. And you're going to make sure you copy over directly to the SD card these 5, I don't want to say files, because it's 2.bin files, a text document, and 2 folders that need to get copied. If you're missing any of these files, this can go very, very wrong. It's very, I will say that it's almost impossible to like brick one of these printers. Recovering firmware on these is like, it's a breeze. It's not something that's super scary. So if you're worried that you're going to break it by flashing the firmware, rest assured that going back to the original firmware is as simple as doing exactly what I'm showing you how to do right now. It's very, very, very easy. It flashes itself. You basically, we'll get there, you'll see. So yeah, now that we've copied this over to the USB drive here, we can go ahead and close out of these windows because we no longer need them. We can eject the flash drive. Always eject your SD card. Not your flash drive, your SD card. Always eject these. You can get some weird errors, especially with firmware stuff. Like if you've ever tried to go put your SD card in a printer and like suddenly it says no SD card and you have to go format it and do a bunch of stuff, it's probably because it wasn't ejected or ejected properly. So yeah, you definitely want to make sure you eject it. Once that's done, you can switch the camera back to the front cam. Alright. Get this situated here. You're going to take your Odin, you're going to set him up. Him, because you know it's Odin. I guess it could be a her. I don't care. It's a printer. It can be whatever you want it to be. You're going to take your SD card that you just put your files on. Remove any old SD card that you had in there. Before you power the printer on, you must insert this SD card. You can't just do it while it's on. So insert the SD card. I'm going to put this guy here to hopefully capture the screen. See how this looks. Almost there. Oof, that's some glare. Try to punch through it if I can, but might have to. Nope, can't do anything about it. We'll do this instead. Then I can do this. Excellent. Alright. So transition this here. We'll hold this into place. When would you add the other files in the other page? You mean adding the like the firmware files? The firmware, I'll get. I don't think I have the files uploaded. I think I just have a link posted to the group. I'll check with the admins and make sure it's okay to upload my firmware there. There's a lot of, not necessarily like liability that comes with it, but you know, printer manufacturers don't necessarily encourage people to modify their printers, especially with firmware, because you know, if you don't know what you're doing, it's an actual safety hazard, because there's things that you can disable or enable that make your printer very, very scary to deal with. But I do need to update the Thingiverse files for this package, and I need to update the firmware package. Currently, we're on version 11 of my firmware. Version 12 is going to be coming out really, really, really soon, so I might hold off on the FOKOOS update until version 12, which, again, I think would be out in the next week or two, so may not update that, but alright. So now that we have this SD card inserted with our firmware, we have the power plugged into the back, we're going to go ahead and switch the machine on. Sorry, I keep my screen very, very dirty. I just had it over at a friend's house. She sees a little bit of traveling. Alright. Turn it on. It's going to come up saying some stuff. Beep. See if I can get this to focus here. There we go. Excellent. So you're going to get a bunch of messages that go by. TFT updating and like menu updating, and just a ton of stuff updating, because that's what we're doing. We're updating stuff. It looks like we have a vast majority of people saying that we want to use red for the benchy, which I agree. You know what? Everybody prints out white benchies. I want to see some more multicolored benchies. I want to see like reds and yellows and blues and all the good stuff. It's like they print a benchy with the white filament that comes in the printer, and then they never print a benchy again. Sorry about the wiggly cam, by the way. I'm like holding this tripod up to try to get you a good angle with very little glare, so you can kind of see what it's doing and read what it's doing. So if you have any issues, you can kind of see what's going on and copy up. This is going to take a while, by the way. It's like 140 something, 150 files or something it has to update total. But we're almost through it. I think there's like 2 or 3 more big files left. Look at that. Once you see that screen, you're pretty much all situated. SD initialization failed is 100% normal. Renames a bunch of the files after it copies them onto the SD card, and it does some weird stuff. But yeah, once that's good, you're pretty much situated. I have it programmed right now for what's the term? Like a canned like box setup. So it should just be able to print. You know, just level your bed and go print. But I do recommend doing a little bit of customization here. The first of which being going under your configuration, going under advanced settings, scrolling down to temperature, and then under here, this is what's known as your PIDs. This is what controls the heaters actually heating and, you know, balancing the temperatures, and that's like a whole entire engineering video that I don't feel like making, and I will never make. But you know, there's 7 billion videos about PID tuning, what it does, how to do it better, and blah blah blah. But in here, you can run a PID auto tune. Oops, need to go to config, advanced settings, temperature, and then you can run what's known as a PID auto tune. So you can run this. I would recommend doing the hot end to not that high. Oh my goodness. Around 215, 220, slightly hotter than you print at. So if you print at 210, go 215, 220. If you print at 205, do, you know, 210, 215, something like that. After you do the hot end, scroll down and do it to the bed as well. It'll take anywhere between, I can't really say, maybe 5 to 10 minutes per thing you want to PID auto tune. But basically, it's gonna tune the heating parameters to your machine and your environment. So, you know, I tried to run a PID auto tune in as neutral environment as I could and copy those numbers, and they should just work. You should be able to hit print. But if you get a temperature error or like min temp error, some sort of temperature error after flashing the firmware, and you try to heat, it's normally just because you got to run a PID auto tune, because our PIDs are going to be a little bit different, and sometimes they're a little bit too different. So you're going to go in here. There's a billion other settings you can do. One of the ones that I think has been super demanded about is going to be under here under motion, and if we scroll down here, you'll notice that we now have bed leveling. So you can go under here. You have bed tramming. This is your corner. So if you hit bed tramming, it's going to go through here, and it's going to move the nozzle to this corner, and then you adjust your nozzle or your knob until the nozzle is just about to touch. Then hit next, and it'll move to this next corner. Adjust, and then you hit next, and next corner, it'll slide the bed forward, move over, probe here, do the next corner, and I would recommend doing at least 2 laps. You can just keep hitting next, 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 and going around a couple of times. Sorry, I got a little lazy with the camera here. How do you know it's finished with the auto tune? It'll say, I'll show you really quick, because I can sort of just cancel it, but if you go under here, actually, I'll just tell you. Yeah, it'll say PID auto tune here, and then I think when it's done, it'll say something else. I don't remember what it says, but I don't think we have time to really sit here and run a PID auto tune. You'll know for sure. It'll say like, you know, testing complete or storage settings or something there. It just won't say PID auto tune anymore for sure. It'll give you some kind of message. But yeah, so under here under motion, you can do an advanced bed leveling, which is known as a mesh. So when you level the bed, it's going to probe a 5x5 grid. So it'll probe here, 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 and so forth all the way across the bed. And what that does is that's where you use like a little piece of paper, or you can use your eyeballs if you think you can kind of rock it. But most people use a piece of paper or a feeler gauge to see, to make sure that you have a consistent amount of drag from spot to spot to spot. And it doesn't really matter too much with the thickness of the paper. I normally stray to be a little bit thinner, just because it's it's fine. That's what I have. I use printer paper. Some people use cardstock. But basically, once you create your mesh up here, It's going to save. You don't have to enter anything in the Marlin. The firmware is set to automatically apply this mesh whenever you print. Whenever you come in here and you print, instead of adjusting your knobs to raise or lower your bed, you just hit this green button twice and it's going to bring up a baby stepping menu. This is focus here. So this baby stepping will actually raise and lower the nozzle's position on the bed during a print. You can baby step before or after. I normally do like a live level where I just adjust the baby step as it's printing. Reason being is that it works best for me. I like being able to see it lay down the plastic while I'm adjusting it, so I can verify visually that the line being laid down isn't too high or too low, rather than just relying on my measurements. Because sometimes things can move around a little bit too much. Sometimes things can self-adjust as they heat up and cool off, and etc. So I really like to get in there and do it while it's printing. That way I can be sure that there's not an issue with it. I've had a couple of concerns, people asking about the temperatures hunting while it's not hot. And as you can see right now, it's not hot and the temperatures are fluctuating quite a bit. I have not found a solution for that. I believe it's just noise from the board's thermistor readings. When you go to heat the machine, that completely disappears. I think it's just because the sensors are operating at like the minimum side of their temperature range, that they're just not as accurate as when they're heated up and they're within their thermal threshold area. So yeah, let's actually need to do a quick thing here. We're going to go ahead and preheat the machine. We're going to go to temperature. And I have some preheat options down here. We have PLA, PETG, ABS, and Inferno. PLA I think was 200 hot end, 60 bed. PETG I think was 230 or 240 hot end, 70 bed. ABS was like 240 or 250 hot end with I think 100 bed. And Inferno I think is like 275 and like 110 or something ludicrous like that. It's basically like only needed if you need your machine to just get as hot as you can get it. If you're trying to like clean out a clog or something like that, or do whatever. I don't really ever recommend using it. It's just there if you need it. So hard pass on ever needing to use that basically. So go to temperature. I'm gonna go ahead and preheat this to PLA because I'm going to corner level the bed because I'm about to print with it, and I have moved this printer all around. So I know for sure that the bed is not going to be calibrated. I've been not gentle with it. So let me try to get this angled where I need it for this process here. Bear with me here, sorry. And actually, while we wait for this to preheat, I need to get an autofocus in on here. Sorry about the glare, but what we're getting ready to do on the screen is incredibly important. But while we are here, I'm going to change this over here to this. We're going to bring up Kira, because we need Kira to be open. I didn't make an icon to the desktop because I'm irresponsible. But we'll get this going. Alright. Kira's been clicked on. It's going to take a minute to open because currently, while streaming, we're hitting this CPU with 75%, 74% load. It's a 3rd gen i7, and it's trying its hardest, and it would appreciate if you gave it a little bit of respect. Yes, I agree. It should try much, much harder. I'll try to maybe upgrade this computer at some point. I don't know. It's doing its job. Maybe I'll just bring my computer down here. It's very heavy, and if I drop it, it's going to die. But we'll try to not let that happen. All right, transition this screen over here. Still getting used to OBS, by the way. So my apologies if my screen transfers are a little delayed, or if they're not there, or what have you. So let's get this opened up here. Excellent. So I've already got a printer made here. I recommend normally that you build your printer on a Ender profile, because it's more or less the same settings. The end stops are in like the same place-ish. It's like the geometry of the machines are very, very similar. You can do a custom printer if you want. I'll have these profiles and everything uploaded in the group. I need to update my profile with the group because I have one that's a little bit old right now, but we'll get it there. I promise. So we're going to drop our benchy in here. I think I already have my profile loaded. We're going to go ahead and do 0.32, 0.5 walls. We're going to cut this down to 3 walls. Maybe 2 walls. Let's do 2 walls. Okay. We'll make this a faster print. We're going to be printing at the speed of light, so we're going to keep this at 10. And I normally print with gyroid because I prefer its strength, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, grid or lines was faster. I forget though. I think it was lines. We're going to drop that down to like 8%. Hey Sean, how's it going? And you know, no problem. Better late than never. You can always go back and watch the beginning if you get bored. Just to confirm, yeah, by the way, I normally print with this thing at about an 85mm per second profile. We're going to kick this up to 200... No, let's go 210. 210 degrees. Build plate, we'll keep that at 60. Flow, I think I've already got this set where it needs to be for fast printing. Extra fast printing, I should say. 110%. Yep, that sounds about right. What speed should we print at? Should we do 150 millimeters per second, or should we push it to, say, 175? Let's get a vote on that as well. I'm gonna go ahead and get this red filament all nice and trimmed up, installed on the machine. Because I heard there was some people who wanted me to print with red filament. I'm actually not going to load it entirely into the printer quite yet, because when I do the corner balance, goodness, the corner adjustments for the bed leveling, I don't want there to be filament oozing out of the tip here, because it'll just stick to the bed and make it impossible to see. And I'm going to get a huge comment about this. But yes, I do use, without question, Aquanet on my my heated bed here. I'm gonna go ahead and flex on this, but yeah, Aquanet, extra hold, extra super hold. Yeah, extra super hold, not just extra hold. It's extra super hold. Unscented because it smells like a hair salon from the 90s. And do you need it for PEI? No, you absolutely don't need it for PEI. I use it so things stop sticking to PEI. It makes it so you have basically like an adhesion release layer, as well as like a minor adhesion itself once you're printing. Because while this stuff is hot, it's nice and tacky, but when it gets cold, it just turns into like a brittle mess. And since it's so thin, it doesn't leave a massive film on your print. Like if you use the PVA glue sticks, maybe you notice that you get a little bit of this PVA embedded in the bottom of your print, and it's not quite as smooth and pretty. Looks like we've got a couple votes here. We got 175, 175, 175, and a dude send it, as well as a YOLO. So it seems like, I think it sounds like we're going to do 200 millimeters per second. Okay, that sounds great, guys. We're just going to do 200 millimeters per second. Call it a day. Kick this back up over into our Kira view. Print speed 200 millimeters per second. Wall speed. This is going to be an interesting test to see if this works out. Hold on a second. It's not allowing me to adjust something. Hold on one moment. Borrow this window from you. Oh, because it's overridden under here. Sorry, I just couldn't see the color difference on the screen here. put this back here so you can see the proof in the pudding yourself here. But we're going to do 200 millimeters per second, print speed, print speed, print speed. Initial layer, we can do about 25. This 15 is a bit too slow for this. Z-hop needs to be turned off. Traction distance, we're going to drop that down to a millimeter because we're going to be printing fast. Print cooling 100%, yep, because again, we're printing fast. We need a skirt, 3 lines. I think I'm going to bump the flow up a little bit more. Actually, I think I'm going to bump temps up too, because that's going to be cooking, I think. What's the temp range in this filament? I think it's 205 to 225. 205 to 225. So yeah, we're still within range here. We'll go ahead and we'll kick this up to let's do 220. 220 sounds like a good round number for me. No guarantees that this is going to work, but I'm optimistic. Kick the flow rate up a tiny bit more. Infill flow needs to go up to 115, 115. I'm just eyeballing these settings, by the way. I literally have never printed with this thing this fast before, but today's the day. This is where the giveaway is going to start. We have 2 rolls of filament to give away from FOKOOS, donated by our loving staff over there, who have decided to grace my printing community with a giveaway. So we're going to, with these settings, which I'm not going to keep up on the screen for too long here at a time, unless you go back and cheat and slice this yourself, you're probably not going to get it, but I'm going to slice this, and we're going to have a guess the weight of this benchy. I'm going to grab a scale while it prints at some point, because I got to go find one, and measure it and see what it's going to be. The 2 closest to the weight are going to be the ones who win. So if it's, say, 50 grams, and you guess 49.75, and nobody else gets closer, you, I believe, will be winning a entire 1 kilogram spool of FOKOOS PLA Plus. Josh is hitting us early with the 24 grams because I guess he just wanted to be first. Either that or he's got that thing preloaded and ready to go. And keep in mind, by the way, that just because you slice it in Cura doesn't mean that that's going to be the actual weight of the finished product, because their filaments wood weighs different than, say, other PLA and PLA Plus. So I've got this hopefully not on camera slicing right now. Yep, looks like it's not. Excellent. This is going to be a 44-minute print, according to Cura here. I need SD card. And once again, we need to make sure that our SD card has nothing on it, because that is crucial for printer maintenance and longevity of getting quality prints. Not letting your SD card get absolutely clogged up. Save to removable drive. Eject. And just like knee-jerk, like, it's this number. I understand. It's okay, it happens. Got some more guesses coming through here. Alright, so we have ejected the drive. We are safe to move about the country here. Ooh, I think I needed to add something to this profile first. There was like nozzle pre-purge, I think, helped a lot when you were printing fast, because it allows it to give it a little bit of like a little Hershey kiss before it starts printing. Extra prime is already enabled. Okay, good, we're set. Alright, ejecting, taking our disc back here. Door is back. Price is right. Okay, so, yeah, I guess, basically, yeah, I mean, well, yeah, we'll say Price is Right rules. Closest without going over, sounds about right. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. We could take a vote. I have no idea what the weight is still. I know it's going to take 40-something minutes, but we can do the Price is Right rules. We can do a vote, like I said. It's up to you guys. What do you want to do? I should have made that more clear in the beginning, but we can take a communal vote here. I'm about the Price is Right rules, because that's how I would do it too, and I would vote 1 gram, because, you know what? Why not? got C3DS Custom 3D Specialty saying hello. Hello! We have not gotten to the winner yet, quite yet, Dora. We're getting ready to print the benchy now. Well, actually, I gotta do a corner leveling on the bed first, and then we're gonna run a benchy. I'm gonna measure the benchy, and once the benchy has been weighed, I will compare it to the numbers here. Alright, well, the only person who made up a rule has now neglected that rule now at this point, and has now decided he wants to rescind it. But now Charles is saying that he wants the rule. Now we have a fight. We have 1-1. See if we can get a deal breaker, or a tiebreaker on that, not a deal breaker. Alright. How to enter? Just guess. I'm slicing a benchy that I'll be printing at like ludicrous speeds on this printer. If you guess the closest, currently I think the rule is the closest to the numbers. So you can go over. If you guess 50 and it's 51, and the next person guessed, you know, way under or way over, I guess you'll win it, because I don't know if we're gonna go the other way with that. But yeah. So just guess the weight of the benchy. If you guess closest, you'll win a spool. If you guess second closest, guess what? You also win a spool. Because we're doing a double giveaway here, which is fantastic. Alright. Get this thing corner about, or I keep wanting to say corner about. Sorry, I'm like, I have this race car mentality, and the only corner anything that I'm used to doing is balancing. You set it up on scale. Anyway, long story. Alright. Get back to this situation here. We're going to enable our Skycam again. Skycam just being the camera that I move around a lot. It's very inappropriately named. Transition over to that guy. So we're going to go under here. We're going to go to motion. Oops. I home decks for some reason because I wasn't paying attention. So we're going to go to bed leveling. I think I auto homes. And again, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do bed tramming. Unless you guys really, really want to sit here for like 6 minutes watching me make a bed mesh on this thing, I vote no. I'll just do a corner leveling here because it'll work well enough for sure. So we're going to go to bed tramming. It's going to say next corner. It's going to wait. And you get under here, adjust it. I like to adjust it just so the nozzle touches the bed. I think that's exactly where it needs to be. And then we'll hit next corner. It's going to move over to the next corner, as it does when it says it's going to move to the next corner. And then adjust this corner of the bed until the nozzle just touches the bed. And I do this optically because I'm lazy and I don't have paper near me. Don't forget, there's still time to put in your guess. I don't think Travis has piped in yet on his guess. Actually, I don't know if the winner has to be in the U.S. or not. I think that would be something that I need to specifically ask Dora. But I'm sorry. I'm just watching Josh get prices righted over here, and it's hilarious. Yeah, Dora, if you could answer in chat whether or not the winners of the filament have to be in the U.S. or not. Because I do know that there are some limitations on where the filament and stuff is sold and shipped from. So yeah, let me know about that. 75. These numbers, they're going up. How big is the bench to you guys? We'll do it. And yeah, you can come over and grab whatever color you want, man. Just, you know, as long as it's not the one I'm printing with right now, because I need it. So, alrighty, cool. So let's get this going here. I got it sliced. I got it preheated. We need to get these corners done still. I got distracted. You guys are bad at distracting me. You do it a lot. Sorry. It's just the truth of our friendship. I need to get it out and tell you guys, you know? And next corner, this is where we're going to start our next lap. I bet you 180% infill. Yeah, I'm calling BS on that, Sean. There's no way. You had to have heard that whole Price is Right thing. It was like, you know what, $1, and you just came along, 95 cents. You did it to him, man. Or you did the $1.01 to him. I think that's even dirtier. Okay, so it looks like Nora says we have FOKOOS red and white PLA plus filament in the USA and Germany. So if you're in the US and Germany, you can participate in the giveaway. Otherwise, unfortunately, I'm going to have to say that it's a wash for anybody else currently. Hopefully, as stock goes up and as availability becomes ever so increasingly available, we'll be able to sort of get you guys what you need, because this stuff really is fantastic. I really love this stuff. This is the only printer that I haven't really needed to do any sort of tinkering with. I just kind of sort of set it up and started printing with it. But I'm a tinkerer, so I do a little bit of stuff, just to make it a little quieter. Alright, this corner is good. Move to the next corner. Finish our second lap here, and then once our second lap is finished, we'll go ahead and hit print. And hope and definitely hope, and more hope, that I got this profile right. By the way, I've had a lot of people ask me, let's see if I can get this closer here. They're like, hey, how do you get out of corner leveling mode? Because it just says next, but like, and this got me too. It says done on the left. You can just click done and then hit the green button, and then it takes you out of that. So if you ever get stuck, that's exactly how you get out of that. And just know that many people have been in that same position. This tripod is not great. That's another thing that needs an upgrade. So we're going to keep this right here. We're going to hit OK. Go down here. I need to pre-purge some filament. So I'm going to, move axis, extrude 10 millimeters, and we'll extrude like 40 millimeters just to get that nice and cleaned out. I had some other color filament in there last, and I want to make sure that that's all nice and purged out before we start this benchy. Oh man, you guys are ruthless to each other, I swear. Oops. And that's what happens when you hit the power switch. All the printers on. I'm afraid to upgrade the firmware. Been used to the original that was preloaded on the machine. There's nothing really wrong with the original firmware. It's mainly just if you want to go do tinkery things, it's just some tinkery thing you'll have to do. It's you know, it's how you, if you want to unlock the ability to really mess with the parameters of the machine and do a lot of like really in-depth tuning, it's kind of the only way to do it. The stock firmware is a modified version of the base MKS, which works great. Again, if it supports the Wi-Fi module, which I haven't personally ordered, but I do see a lot of people using, and it works great. It saves you from having to do weird Octopi stuff. It works natively with Kira, and it works great. Stock firmware, the only thing that you can't really do is weird stuff like pit auto tunes and making a bed mesh and stuff. Otherwise, yeah, it works great. It prints great. I think basically every review video you've ever seen of this printer has been printed with printed with the stock firmware. I don't think it's ever. I don't think I've seen one that's been modified, at least in video. I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm just pretty sure I haven't seen one. Just thought my wire was a little loose there. Looks okay. Let's forget it's up here. Alright. Hopefully we get this going. Also, you can change the language, too, of the firmware in here. There's only a couple of languages here. I'm going to come up with another firmware pack that has another 5 languages. So if you have any special requests for your language to be added, or if you know somebody who wants to be added, just let me know. Yeah, I do have an more up-to-date version of my firmware coming soon. It's currently on version 11. Version 12 should be out within the end of the month. Just getting a little bit busy, so I'm a little bit behind currently. Concerned I may have knocked a wire loose while I was in there, but we'll see here in a second. Yeah, I haven't had mine for quite that long. I've had mine for, I think about 2, maybe 3 months now. Just recently was when I got into the firmware with it. It's been basically stock for the longest time. This was like last in line to get my firmware update, so I really haven't done much with it. I got a little booger stuff to it. Yeah, I think I may have knocked the extruder wire loose. This is the joys of modifying your machine. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this print. Just got a really quick technical difficulty here. I'm going to check on the condition of this extruder wire. I'm going to let this stay on and cool down while I get the bottom unscrewed. It should be cooled down enough. It's either I pulled the wire loose from the bottom, or I ended up knocking it loose when I pulled the shroud off. Harder to do stuff on camera. Yeah, I'm definitely not printing the FOKOOS. We don't have time for the for that print, unfortunately. That takes quite a while. If you want to ask chat if they mind you changing your guess, because I don't think anybody has guessed that high. I think that seems like like almost double what everybody else is guessing. So if you wanna ask chat if it's okay to change your guess, I'll leave it up to them. They are the ones who make the rules and get angry if things go bad. Just listen to what they say to do. Okay, all my plugs down here look good. Probably something to do with up top. Make sure this plate goes back on the right way. Okay. So this is definitely one of the highest dangers of modifying your printer. Aside from catastrophically doing something so wrong that it like tries to catch itself on fire, but that's really, really, really hard to do with something as simple as this. That's more of like if you change your motherboard or your power supply or something, you know, substantial. Not really so much of a worry with these guys, with what we just did. think preemptively I'm just going to pull this guy off. Because I didn't see anything obviously wrong underneath, so it makes me believe that there's something going on in here. Seems plugged in. Oh, maybe it was just a really wonky firmware flash. Well, if it doesn't work now, we'll reflash the firmware. Which is also something else that can happen, by the way, is sometimes you just don't get a good firmware flash. If something is weird, then sometimes it just doesn't work. But this is the firmware that I uploaded to the group I can't tell you how long ago, and it's the firmware that was on the machine before I just flashed it. So I know it's working. I've just got something weird going on currently. I don't think it would be one of my streams unless something went horribly wrong, so go ahead and get that out of the way, I guess, right? Okay. These are nice and tight. So there's nothing dirty on our ribbon cable. Sometimes bad contact can cause that problem. Turn this guy back on and see what happens. Like I said, worst case scenario, we'll reflash some firmware, but as you saw, that only takes a couple minutes. Preheat TLA. Yeah, I went over this a little bit earlier, but there's a couple of people who have already made shrouds that have like a locking mechanism that sort of here. Let's turn better. Man, that's a really bad camera. It'll go in here, and it locks into the. There we go. It locks the ribbon cable into the shroud. Mine doesn't have that quite at this time. I haven't stolen that design yet. Give me a little bit, I'll do that. But yeah, there's different shrouds out there that have a locking mechanism for this ribbon cable. So if you ever get a little too aggressive, or a pet or something comes by and smacks it a little bit, it shouldn't have any issues. We are preheated. Let's see if she'll extrude. Hopefully the answer is yes. Otherwise, I will blow past it every time. I'll reflash it, but interesting. Well, we're going to reflash the firmware really quick, because I don't know what the problem is. Connections are good. Worst case, we'll just we'll figure something else out. But give me a minute here. We'll get this situated. Do we have any other questions, concerns, or anything else to note here? Any questions for the staff or creators of this fine, wonderful machine? Wait a second. Might have to try something here in a minute if this doesn't work. I think there might be something like you have to use a smaller flash drive than what I used. I think it's like a 4 8 gig limit or something. I'm not sure. If that's the case, I gotta run upstairs and grab a different flash drive or SD card. But still waiting. Actually, while that flashes, I'm going to run upstairs and grab a scale, and I'm going to go grab that smaller SD card just in case. Save us some time here. And that'll get us set up for when this is done, and then I won't have to get back up. So give me 1 second. Alright, multiple trips upstairs. I'm back finally. How's this guy looking? We're updated. Pop the SD card. Preheat. See if this thing works yet. Almost preheated. 180. Wait, start getting this set up over here. This will hit it by the time it gets there. Every time, I swear, I'm gonna do it. Right, move extruder. 10. Okay, that looks reasonable. Look at it go. See it extrude 100 millimeters, just to be sure. Interesting. Yep, it looks like it's still a little wonky. I'm going to flash it with the 4 gigabyte drive and see if that changes, hopefully, the behavior here. I'm also going to re-download it from my drive too, just in case something wonky is happening from there. This is the part of the stream that I like to think is the most riveting, where I sit here and troubleshoot random technical difficulties. If you disagree, I guess let me know. Okay, we have that downloaded. Turn download this. Alright, take 3 on the firmware flash. Barring this, if for some reason this also doesn't work, I'm just gonna run upstairs really quick, drop the firmware on it from my desktop onto an SD card, because I know that just worked. Sorry for the delays here. Yeah, whoever said to check the ribbon cables in a private message, thanks for the idea. They're definitely seated for sure. Any other questions about the machine, about the company, about their accessories? Their 3D printers or their 3D printer related accessories? I just don't have very much confidence in this this computer, or at least this this SD card adapter that I'm using here. It's not great. Temperature, PLA. That do it? I think that did it. Okay. Note to future self and all other future flashers out there. I think the move is to not use a 16 gig flash card or SD card. I think you need to use a 4 gig or smaller to flash this board with. I guess I've just never tried. Okay. Give us another quick spritz just to be sure. back. Okay, go down. Print for media. Not what we need. Put the wrong SD card back in. Wrong SD card still. I think I may have overwritten the Benchy. Oh no. That's not great. Was it on this one? Okay, I was on this one. Alright, we're good. Alright, let's get this lined up better on the camera here. If I angle it that way, you can see the screen even. Look at that. Fancy. When will I have a plug and play for DL Touch? And sorry, I'm not going to read your comments like verbatim. I'm just going to like rewrite them in my head because that's what I do. Give me 1 sec, sorry. So I have firmware for it, and my shroud supports mounting it and everything. The only thing I don't have is like a harness for it. I would assume, like, probably in like a week or two, I would be able to figure out sort of like where I need to be with that, in terms of like what harness I actually need to order, that kind of stuff. So I got the first layer a little bit too close for how beefy this flow is. I'm gonna get this situated. Sorry. A little bit of live leveling never hurt anybody. I think it's about right. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna have BL Touch hopefully within, I would say by January for sure. I'll know what cable you gotta buy to sort of butcher to get your components out of. Yeah, we're going here. This is 25 millimeters per second, and we're gonna up the speed to 200 the second this first layer is done. So fingers crossed this works out. I might have to slow it down. I don't know. The flow rate of the volcano is quite impressive, but 200 millimeters per second might be a little bit. Thankfully, the Benchy's not very big, so the likelihood of us actually hitting 200 millimeters per second is very low. But, you know, see what happens. Listening intently for any clicking in the extruder. Chooching. I guess a close up of that. Hold on. Alright, so we're in like the, we're bored for the next 30 minutes or so portion of the video where we're just going to watch this guy print. I think now's a better time than any to get any sort of technical questions out of the way. I'll just start rambling out random stuff, hoping that it covers some of the questions that anybody might have. It's a 235 by 235 by 260, I think. Is there a size on the front of this guy? 250. 235 by 235 by 250. Right. Is the build volume. 24 volt system for the bed and the hot end. 240 volt or 240 watt power supply, so you can run a couple of these guys off of one outlet without adding too much strain to it. Sorry, a second here. Got a lot of things going on. Apparently, I've got a lot of people messaging me. See if I can get caught up on some of these side questions if I got any coming in. Yeah, I got your message.
I got you, buddy.
Don't worry. Oof. I'm going to increase our flow here quite a bit because I don't think 110 was enough. So I'm going to give that another 10% because
we got some thin spots here for sure. I think as we get to those more detailed areas, we're going to end up losing some
insane detail if we don't have enough plastic coming out of this guy. Or it's just going to fail entirely, which is also not in the cards. We're going to kick the temps up to 225 also. Also, more stuff. Dual Z, it uses a capacitive, I think that's the term, right? Capacitive end stop for the Z as well as the X. The Y is still on a regular clicky switch because it taps on plastic, I think. So you should never have to worry about your Z or your X switches pretty much ever going bad. And to be honest, those micro switches last forever anyway, so I don't think your bed switch is really going to have a problem. A lot of people think that the Odin is like some magical, like,
folds into a briefcase travel printer type thing, and
it's for sure not. It's small for sure, but it's not like some quick release fold up and go on your way 3D printer where it's going to be all flimsy and falling apart. It does get bolted together on the sides with two M5 bolts on both sides, so it's rigid. It doesn't go anywhere. But if you need to travel with it, you can fold it up, and it does slide into a briefcase, which is really nice. It's got or not a briefcase, sorry, a suitcase, like a larger duffel bag, like carrying case, like you take over to a weekend bag type thing. Small enough that I don't have to worry about it taking up too much space when I go over to my friend's house, which I've done. I've taken this guy to my buddy's house, and I printed out some trophies for poker night and some other stuff, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of people liked it, and it's a really good printer to show people who are new to the hobby, like around a 3D printer. It's a premium model that isn't overly complex, like some crazy Core XY contraption thing. It's small and it's unintimidating because of its size. It's quiet, which is phenomenal. Getting a printer these days that doesn't have a silent board is like it's disgusting. I don't know how people can get away with it. FOKOOS, you've done a great job with this printer. My only complaint would be my only upgrade, I would say, for the next model would be to use BTT boards, and I think I've discussed this with a couple of the people in the group too. But it opens up the world for modding in the community, which again, printer manufacturers do not have to endorse. Every time you mod something, you take away your ability to claim it on a warranty because you're making a modification to the machine and you're changing its operation and how it was designed to be operated. So, mod at your own risk, but I think that having this printer as open platform as it is already is a super great step in the right direction. There's not a single printer that I own specifically that just comes with off-the-shelf parts like this guy. If the motherboard breaks, the screen breaks, you just want to upgrade it, it'll take a standard MKS Robin board with the Robin LCD and it bolts right in. No modification needed. You can replace the stepper drivers with 2209s and go UART, change out the firmware and everything. Like it's super plug and play. Basically all the parts except for the cabling and some of the hot-in parts are fairly universal. How to import somebody else's Cura settings in Cura. So that's sort of a bit of a harder topic to cover in a couple seconds. But basically, you're going to want to go into your Cura settings. It's like your not your profile, but you'll want to go to, like, is there a profile? I think you can just like right click over here, profile. I'm doing some clicking. I usually just go to preferences and then go to profile, and then you can hit import or export from there. You just have to make sure that their base machine profile matches. If they use a custom, if you make a custom machine and you try to load my profile in, it's going to give you an error because mine's built for an Ender, and that causes like some weird conflicts with the presettings that are already in Cura. So weird stuff can happen for sure. But you definitely, if you get that error message, normally it's because people build their profiles around Creality printers just because they're the most well-known and used, so they're kind of tried and true. Definitely need some sort of locking mechanism. Yeah, if this had even pins or something, like some removable locking mechanism that sort of like locks it into place, like it basically, like, it has to be bolted into place. Otherwise, it's going to have play. The top is going to wobble around, when it's printing, because there's no way those pins are going to have like enough locking force or like even a ratcheting system or something. Like, it for sure needs to be bolted. But like, I kind of wish that maybe there was like a way to like lock the gantry to the frame or something once it's folded, because you just kind of gotta like wrap it up with something. I usually just throw a towel around it if I ever fold it, but yeah, I don't think that there's like a proper way to reliably make a folding printer that has like quick release tabs. I'm just having like nightmares back to like mil-spec stuff where, like, yeah, this is, high quality stuff, and like everything just wobbled around. It was the horrible stuff. Yeah, takes me back. But
we are at remaining time 22 minutes, and we're 11 minutes into the print. So this is a 33-minute bed sheet.
For those curious. Some more features that I like about this printer. I like its easy Y belt adjuster and its X belt adjuster for that matter. Most printer companies don't really add easy adjusters for their stuff, which is super, super nice that they did here. Another really cool thing, on printers this size, you don't normally see dual Y rails. You usually see a single 4020 in the middle, or heaven forbid, a single 2020 in the middle, but the dual 2020s really add another level of stability to this bed. It helps split out the load so you don't get like nearly as much wobble on this thing compared to, say, an Ender 3. And I'll talk a bunch of smack about the Ender 3 because I don't think I plan on reviewing one. And Creality is a big enough company that I don't think they want to come on my channel anyway. So yeah, I definitely, for the $300 that an Ender 3 Pro is versus this guy, which I believe currently is on sale on Facebook. I haven't talked about it, but it's on sale on Facebook right now for $286. There's currently a sale running, plus an additional $20 off coupon if you're an Amazon Prime member. So if you want to pick one of these guys up for under $300, this is absolutely your chance. They're on they're on Amazon. I have the link in the description. I have the Facebook group in the description, so you can go ahead and get yourself added to that guy too. I have the worst ADHD, and I've been awake all day and all night, and I can't keep track of where I'm going here, but we're going to be all over the place. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, C3DS, like, 100%. Like, I agree. Like, when it's folded, it would be nice if there was a locking mechanism, but it's like, it would have to, I guess, be like a temporary one. Like, you lock into this, and it clips underneath of the frame or something. Like, because it can't stay on the printer. It would be bulky and ugly, and, like, I can't think of a way to make, like, a latch for it. But, yeah, like, some kind of, like, locking strap or something would be kind of cool. And, again, by the way, I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but FOKOOS is a company that will 100% listen to your feedback. If you go in their Facebook group and you explain to them, hey, I think this part of your machine could be better, and here's why, here's how. Obviously, don't just go on there and go, hey, your machine sucks, and this is why it would be better, because that's not productive. But if you go and you approach it in the way that
product development is done, in the sense that, hey, I've noticed that there's a minor flaw in your machine that can be improved by this simple thing, or maybe this not so simple thing, but it would have an extreme effect on your machine in a positive way. They will listen to you, they will take your feedback, and they will absolutely apply it to their next printer iterations. So the more people that buy these printers go in the Facebook group and say, hey, I really like this part, or I really don't like this part, or I really, really like, I wish it had this, or I wish it didn't have this, they will take this into consideration. I'm sure that they have like a whole spreadsheet of this feedback just logged, where it's like, oh, people really, really, really want auto bed leveling. I think we have to release a printer that absolutely just comes with it. And yeah, they'll probably end up listening to that kind of advice if 100,000 people say, hey, I want an ABL on my next machine. They'll do it. So they're definitely an attentive company. It goes along with their customer service and their customer support. And there's a couple of other people with the team, and as CD3S or C3DS, sorry, is mentioning here, Dora she's phenomenal. I mean, she does her own live streams. You can catch her on the FOKOOS group. She does her own posts. She does her own videos. She constantly is answering questions from customers and linking them to the right videos and help, like tech art, like everything they need. She's there. She's on it. And there's multiple people like that from FOKOOS on the group. She's just I think she's the manager. I'm not sure what her position is, but she does everything. She's constantly online. I don't think I've sent her a message that's gone ignored for more than like a day. Like she's available. The company's around, and they will help you out. They'll answer your questions. They'll value your feedback. They will appreciatively welcome you into their community, 100%. As you can kind of see, we're still printing quite fast, but because the Benchy's so small, I do have the acceleration settings at like at a reasonable rate. I think they're like, I don't even remember. I think they're at 750, maybe higher, maybe 1,000 millimeters per second or something like that. I don't know. They're set pretty high, but honestly, because of the fact we're only moving the nozzle like an inch at a time on this Benchy, it doesn't have time to accelerate to the full amount. But on the bigger spots, it'll really sit there and it'll hit the ground running for sure. Alright. So, I'm gonna go back up here. Oh man, these weights are... We're some verbose people. These weights are buried. I'm gonna have to go back and check on those. But I did get a scale. I bought this specifically for this challenge, by the way, so don't get any funny ideas about why I own a little tiny itty-bitty scale. But I do have a scale, just for this, so I can measure the Benchy, and we can find out how much it weighs. And I hope it has batteries, because I didn't even check. Yes, it has batteries. It works. Okay, cool. Excellent. Can't ever be too prepared. I gotta say, at the start of this, I was really concerned about whether or not this Benchy would finish or not. And keep in mind, we're running at a 25% extra flow. We're bumped up an extra 25 degrees Celsius from what I would normally print this at. So this is not going to be a pretty Benchy. We're also doing 0.32 millimeter layer height too. This is definitely a rough draft Benchy, but hey, if it can print this guy, I don't see why I couldn't print anything else at high speeds if you really just need to crank some stuff out. Check our camera battery life here. 26%. That's got enough time, I think, to finish it. Yeah, the Ghost Benchy looks really cool. I still haven't printed one of those yet. I just haven't got around to it, but they do look really, really cool compared to this little guy. And I wish there was a better Benchy that, you know, worked like an actual little boat when you're done with it, because these things are so absolutely useless. Like, at least it'd be cool if you could dump, like, you know, 1,000 of your printed Benchies into, like, a swimming pool or something and watch them all float around or something, but they don't even do that. They just flip upside down. The stupidest print ever. I love it, but it's the stupidest print. So I got a message to show off some of these guys. So like I said, the white was when I was experimenting with profiles, and I don't know why I started a massive print without checking the profile first, but let's get this back some more here. We got a massive, absolutely unit. I'll just take it off the stand. Unit of a T-rex skull printed with this guy. Prints in 2 pieces. Again, it's a little stringy, but I just kind of guessed the settings on here, and she came out really good. I mean, detail's pretty on point, you know? No weird shifts, no weird overhang problems. This is, I think, the only complaint, but I think any printer with stock cooling I think I've tried this print on has definitely had issues with the lower jaw here. It's quite an extensive overhang there, but yeah, skull came out great. I mean, it was most of the print bed, I think, when I printed it. But, and then of course the stand for it. I would recommend that if you scale this guy up, you print this rod a little bit bigger, because it gets a little wonky at this size, for sure. It doesn't quite like to notch into place as well. But I'll reprint this probably at like 104 or something like that. But yeah, for now, it holds it. I don't really have too much of a complaint. You can just stay up here. And by the way, a blowtorch or a lighter or something like that, heat gun, would immediately take away this very fine string. And all I had to do, honestly, was just increase the retraction from like 0.75 to 1 millimeter, and that would have been gorgeous. And here's the pyramid, which I don't know. I think it might be a little too bright for it, lighting-wise. What do we got? We got some chat coming through. So I've been using the focus slicer, focusing use curiosities. That's weird that it's exporting it as a gcode.gz file. It might be something to do with the export settings and the actual the profile. I'm not 100% sure, man. Message me if you can on Facebook. I'm a little slow to respond on YouTube sometimes, but send me a message. I'll try to help you figure out why it's not working with Kira. I haven't really used I used the focus slicer like twice just to see if it worked, but essentially it's just like a reskinned, slightly older version of Kira that's a little bit easier to use. So there's nothing wrong with using it for sure. But yeah, shoot me a message, man. I'll help you out. Never printed before, but I'm planning on buying a Focus later this month. You read that the elapsed time to finish is that displayed on the machine itself. So from the factory, no. That's I think another thing that a lot of people were hoping would come out at some point in time with a firmware update. But MKS is like really, really weird with their firmware. So it's like kind of not a big deal, but it's kind of an issue to get that to come up on the touchscreen. But with mine here, with my modified firmware, I've got the UI set. So if you look here, it's got 23, and then it'll switch to R. That's remaining. So the time elapsed is 23 minutes, remaining is 6 minutes. So it'll cycle back and forth between the two of them. Yeah, just something that the firmware adds. And then, of course, you have the status bar that runs across underneath. That'll fill up as it finishes, too. Just set back up and focus here. I feel like being in focus is really important on this video. Get it? Being in focus? Because it's focus. Which, by the way, there has been a lot of discussion about the name of this printer. It is for sure pronounced FOKOOS.
I have nothing else to say about that. It's FOKOOS. It's the Odin-5 F3. It's got a long, slightly complicated name, but it's not a long or slightly complicated printer. And yes, I will put a link on the description for the T-Rex print, as well as the giant, whatever the heck that pyramid thing was called. Again, I don't remember. It has some weird technical math name or something, something. I don't know. Anyway, it's really cool. I love the print. Turned out great. Turns out great on everybody's printer, apparently. You print it in vase mode, so actually each and every one of the little triangles on this guy are hollow, and it builds this whole thing up in vase mode, and it's really crazy. It takes absolutely forever, but it's super, super cool, and I love the print. And the T-Rex I just printed because, I mean, honestly, who doesn't want a giant T-Rex skull just to have? I started printing one that was, like, massive. I mean, I'm talking about, like, 50, 60 kilograms worth of plastic, but honestly, the file was a little janky, and I wasn't 100% sure I wanted to work with it, because it would have required a lot of work. What version firmware is that? This is actually my own personal brand of firmware. I have a couple of printers under my belt, mainly Sunlu, G-Tech, and now FOKOOS, that run my firmware. It's currently running Marlin 2.0.9.1, and we're on version 11 of my branch. Soon we'll be going to 2.9.2, or 2.0.9.2, or 2.0.9.3 if it's out. Potentially using the bug fix version. I don't know, I've had some weird issues with bug fix in the past, but no super issues with this current version. There's like one or two little bugs, but those will be probably hot fixed or just completely roll it out in version 12 when it's released. My firmware, I'll have a link in the description after the stream is done to my drive where you can find the firmware for this printer. It's also going to be posted in the FOKOOS group for Facebook. Retractions, haven't tried everything. Retracted since speed touch. So the cool thing is that if you print that giant pyramid thing, is you don't have to worry about retractions because it prints in vase mode. Because yeah, I know some people have a lot of issues when you're printing just a ton of retractions. It'll cause you to have some issues with blocking and other problems, but or not blocking, but clogging and other issues just from too many retractions. But typically on this printer with PLA, PLA plus, that kind of stuff, I'm running usually no more than 1 millimeter of retraction on this guy. It really, really, really doesn't take that much to get it going. It's direct drive, and the path between the extruder and the hot end are like, I mean, it's within, I think, 2 inches, so you really don't have to worry about too much on retraction. You just kind of dial it in a little bit. Pretty easy, though. This is definitely not the prettiest benchy. Anybody makes fun of the quality, you're immediately disqualified from the giveaway. I'm kidding, but, you know. But you'll hurt my benchy's feelings, and it doesn't like that. Rounding out with 3 minutes remaining. Getting ready to do the roof here. Oh, we're doing the roof now. Bottom layer, anyway. I would say if you have any intent to print this fast with this printer on any reasonable, consistent basis, I would look into potentially upgrading the cooling first, I would say. Like upgrading from the 4010 radial fan to like a 5015 or a 4020. Something a little bit beefier, a little bit stronger. I personally will have a shroud out upgraded for a single fan. I don't think I'm going to release like my F5 or my Orca fan for this guy. But I probably will do a single 4020, maybe 5015, probably 4020 because I prefer the CFM over pressure. We won't really need pressure on this guy with the ducting that I'll be doing. But
just to get you some 360 cooling, because it's only cooling one side of the print more or less. And at this speed, it's not allowing enough time for the filament to cool down. There's some sagging, but then again, I'm printing at 4 times I think the recommended print speed, so kind of not the best thing. You got a Sunlu S8 that you're working with? You got a pretty decent benchy off of it? Okay. It's been like an hour and a half since we started this process. Do we want to have, now that this is about done, do we want to restate our votes and or give you one last second, one chance to give you a second guess here to change your vote? Partly because I don't feel like scrolling back up that high, and I think that we have a couple more people watching a couple new people watching that weren't here for the original vote. So I'll scroll back up. If anybody has left, I will note your original vote. I will... yeah, I'll note your original vote. But if you're still here, if you'd like to audit your guess, and or just restate your previous guess, if you'd like to double down, I think we should do that. Just so the new people have a chance to throw down their guesses. We're almost done. 1 minute left. We're just doing our little chimney stack. Note to self, if I'm ever printing this fast in the future, make sure coasting is absolutely disabled. Is that the maker-based version of Marlin? No. It's Marlin source. It's just the straight-up Marlin source from Marlin that I've compiled for this printer. Specifically for this printer. I have it for other printers and other motherboards and everything, but this specific branch works for this guy. The MKS version or the maker-based version of the MKS, this is firmware. It's Marlin, but it works off of the touchscreen. I think it's like the ULG lib or something. I forget it. I have the option to do it with mine too, but it doesn't allow you to have all the features because it doesn't add the icons for, it doesn't add the icons for bed leveling and the mesh level. Like it doesn't add the features to it. They're there in the source code, so if you want to run like the G-code command to the terminal, you can, but otherwise you're stuck. So I prefer it to leave it on the classic UI. I would love to use the color UI, but unfortunately this board does not use enough ROM for me to flash the color UI with all of my features. So I'd have to either cripple the features of my board, use slim LCD menus, or something along the lines of that to use that specific UI branch. So I've used the old one. I use the old one just to sort of get past all of that. Give you all the features. It's a little uglier, but honestly, it's a 3D printer. It's not a TV or a computer. So and we're done. Before we measure this, give you a little look around of how bad she turned out here. She's a little ugly, I'm not gonna lie. I think I upped the extrusion a little bit. We've got some under extrusion. We've got some areas where my coasting was a little too aggressive. Not really any stringing though, look at that. What MKS board would be an upgrade? I would say the Robin, I think 1.4 or like 1.3 or something like that. I forget what the newest one is. But it will work natively with this LCD, whichever one has the little ribbon cable plug for the LCD. It will also allow you to buy standard 2209 drivers and run them in UART, but it will work with the LCD. It's like a plug-and-play upgrade, more or less. And yeah, LVLGUI is the ultra pretty one, but again, very, very uneditable. So we have guesses with 17 grams, 15 grams, 16, 31, and then our previous entries, which I will scroll up to double check on afterwards. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 3-minute cooldown. At 10:45 Eastern Time, I'm going to call it. Guessing is going to close. Estimations are going to close, that kind of thing. Yeah, just to give people a little bit more time, just in case there's anybody else who's joining the stream, anybody else who wants to throw out a guess. And a reminder of the rules. I think we veto the Price is Right rules. So the closest period, if you get the closest guess, the first two closest guesses, I'm so tired, they're going to win some filament supplied directly by FOKOOS themselves. As long as you're in the US or Germany, we'll get you situated and hooked up with some filament. Yeah, if you guess the weight exactly, I mean, I'll just come over. You just have me now. I'm your personal printer guy. Oh, and I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but when I grabbed the benchy, I did some sleight of hand and like swapped it out for one that's like pure metal. So this thing actually weighs like 2 pounds. You just can't tell. You're gonna be really confused when I weigh it. Oof. That's a lot of confidence, man. Hey, man, you don't know. It could be, with all this over-extrusion, it might come out a little bit heavier than it intended, you know? That even threw off the Cura amount, because I don't even know what the flow rate was set at. I think it was like 115 in Cura, and then I think I bumped it up another 10 or 15% in Marlin, so... Sorry, Juju, I don't think the UK is on the table. Unless Dora chimes in that she can somehow hook you up, but I'm pretty sure we got that one sort of nixed, unfortunately. Alright, 10:45. I think we're going to call it. So we get this turned on. That gets situated. I thought I brought down something to make sure that that's calibrated, but we'll trust it. It's okay. I have faith. Hold on. Get this nice and positioned. And zoomed in. 14.38 grams. Just give this another check, just to be sure. Take an average. 14.38. 14.38. Okay, so yeah, it keeps settling at 14.38. Alright, so 14.38 grams is what we're going to call that at. So let's go through, see if we got any extra special guesses here. I think somebody was close. Somebody said 14. Alright, so we got Loretta saying 14 grams. I think that is as close as we're getting. 17, 24, 24, 31, 16, 15, 17... Alright, it looks like Blackline Engraving said 15. Let me scroll up and see if any of the older guys said anything else. 11 grams from C3DS. Unfortunately, that's a couple grams shy of where we needed to be. Travis's 75 grams is horribly over. But then again, that was a guess for a focus bot, so we're not going to fault them on that. We got 23.95 grams by Sean, who's also a loser. That's what you get for doing the Price is Right. And being that guy, because you totally that guyed him, and I'm glad it didn't work out for you. 17 grams by Amazing T-Bone, 14 by Loretta, 24 by Josh. So yeah, we got 14 and 15. 17, I think, 16 and 17 weren't that far behind. But it looks like we get Loretta and Black Lion Engravings. So Black Lion Engravings, if you could message me, otherwise I'll try to hunt you down. Loretta, today's your birthday. Well, congratulations. I'm glad we got you this fantastic gift that has been provided to us by FOKOOS. Who, again, once again, thank you very much for sponsoring this giveaway. It's very appreciated by me and my subscribers, as well as my new joiners and anybody else in between. If we have any other questions, now's the time to ask. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up, hopefully before we hit the next couple minutes here. If there is anything else, I think now would be the time. We're going to get this closed out. Our lovely FOKOOS Odin-5 F3. I wish it had a longer name. Super Deluxe Master Printer 4005. That's what we're calling it. Kitty time. Man, my cat's like upstairs somewhere. I'm not going to find that little girl. She's going to go somewhere absolutely away from me, that's for sure. Yeah, buds, thanks you for checking it out. C3DS. Man, I will say your name properly on the first shot one time. I promise you. Maybe on the next stream I'll get it. I'll try my hardest. I gotta get this guy turned off from my phone like dies. That would be bad. Well, yeah, any other questions? Absolutely don't hesitate to ask. If anybody's watching this in the future, please feel free to leave a comment. Any questions, I'll try to answer as soon as I get a chance to. Otherwise, please join the FOKOOS Facebook group. Make sure you get subscribed to the channel so any sort of live updates come out or any sort of other videos I release, you'll be up to date on those. Yeah, I think we're pretty much good here. I don't think there's any other questions coming through. And, oh yeah, Josh, yeah, even if we go by Price is Right rules, everybody else went over. So, technically, like, we would have to go by, like, standard rules anyway, like, unless Loretta just wins a vote. Which, hey, you know, but, yeah, I think it works out. I think it was a pretty good showdown. Any other issues or anything? Like I said, guys, just find me on Facebook, leave me a comment, any questions, shoot me a message. Yeah. In conclusion, great printer, easy to mod, prints ludicrously fast for no reason at all. I love it. It's a great printer. Oh wait, maybe we have another question coming in. I hope it's negative comments. I appreciate those the best. Oh yes. Okay, so yeah, I touched base on this earlier, but yeah, the BL Touch Stream is going to be coming. I want to try to find a cable that I can just order on Amazon, and it has like not necessarily the right connectors, but like the right crimped connectors on both sides, so you can just maybe de-pin it and just like shove this thing in the holes where it needs to go, and you're on your way with an ABL. But because I'd prefer to not do any weird soldering or like tearing apart the Z end stop wiring to move it or any of that kind of stuff. I'd like to do it the quote-unquote right way, if possible. But yeah, no, BL Touch video will be coming soon, as well as another firmware update on how to get moved over to that. And yeah, all right, well, cool. Thanks for joining the stream. Take care. See you guys next time. Appreciate it.